Hello there, and welcome to episode number 2 of Liam's Fight Night Picks. We are here and we are excited to preview the fantastic card at Wembley this weekend for Riyadh season, headlined by Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois. I'm delighted to say that my guest this week is Matt Elliott. Matt, how are you?
I'm very well, Liam. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. It's a big fight week. The fact we're at the start of the week and there's already excitement building. People are talking about it. There's a load of interviews out from the fighters. I mean, Riyadh season does things differently anyway, but it just feels on another level being in the UK, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I think it's, as you say, the promos that go with sort of the Riyadh season fight week are amazing at a different level. Obviously, the money that goes into it. But, you know, even like today, open workouts, you know, three fights that, you know, could make an undercard, couldn't there, in most other arenas. So, yeah, it's unreal stuff, really.
Yeah, it is. And free to enter for the fans. There's no charge if you want to go down to the fights tonight if you're in and around the Wembley Arena area. But before we get into the fantastic card from Wembley, headlines by the heavyweight title fight, we're going to quickly touch on Jaime Munguia's comeback fight. So as we know, Jaime Munguia lost his highly padded unbeaten record against Canelo earlier this year. And he's back in a 12-rounder here against Eric Banzina. Apologies if I'm messing up the pronunciation of that. So yeah, Canelo lost his unbeaten record Munguia lost his unbeaten record to Canelo in May. We always knew it was a highly padded record. How do we think that's affected him as he builds back towards this fight with a new training team?
Yeah, look, I think a loss can affect fighters in different ways. I think he's got to take it for what it was. You know, he's in there with one of the best. You know, he did all right on the night, but, you know, he was comfortably beaten. I think he just has to dust himself down, as you say, come back into this one. On paper, you know, Bazinyan's got an all right, he's got an unbeaten record, but he's not at the levels that Canelo is, and I don't think he's at the levels Munguia is as well. So hopefully he can ease himself back into it, get the victory, and then move on to better things in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the interesting thing for me in this fight is he's not working with Golden Boy for the first time in his career. Unsure from having a look around if that's a straight split or if he's gone over to Top Rank just to be active in this fight. Obviously, Golden Boy have cards going on quite often, but they don't go as regularly as Top Rank or Matchroom we see in the USA. Do we reckon there could be sour grapes if he has moved? Obviously, Oscar De La Hoya and Bernard Hopkins have looked after him his whole career, and now suddenly he's moved over to Bob Arum. Do we reckon that could have an impact as well?
I think if he has left De La Hoya, then there'll definitely be sour grapes. Yeah, it's interesting. I've not paid too much attention to kind of the promotional backdrop to it, but I knew it was on Sky this weekend, so Top Rank card. And I think, yeah, you know, you build a fighter up all his career, get him a fight against Canelo, and if he goes to another promoter thereafter, then I guess, yeah, there will be an element of sour grapes about it.
Yeah, like you just said, the promotion of this, I had to really go looking for it to find anything about it, to do a bit of prep. I'm flying under the radar. I believe the card's in Canada, which is where Bazinyan bases himself. He's Canadian, resides in Canada, but he's an Armenian of birth. As we said about him, his record is 32-0-1, but his last fight was a split decision draw, which from having a look, he was very lucky to get a draw, I believe, in that fight. It's his first time scheduled to go 12 rounds. Do we expect that he's just been put in there, like we said, as cannon fodder for Munguia, sort of get your confidence back, do this thing you do where you overwhelm and knock out overmatched opponents?
I think so. I think it's a confidence builder, isn't it? And you say he's got an unbeaten record, but again, it's padded. He's not been in with somebody at the level of Munguia. I think he's had a pretty decent training camp. I was talking to Mark Jeffers a couple of weeks ago, who's been out there helping him. Baturbeyev's in and around that camp at the minute as well. So there's some good characters there. But yeah, I think it's probably a step too far for him.
Yes, sparring and doing it under the lights on the night are two completely different things, as we hear fighters say all the time. For me, if Munguia is anywhere near the fighter we believe he has been, because he is a former world champion at 154, then he gets this fight done via stoppage between rounds 4 to 7 to me. He may have a bit of PTSD from the lesson he got taught by Canelo, so it may take him a few rounds to find his rhythm, but I fully expect that if this is an overmatched opponent for him, he'll get the job done inside the distance. How about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think we saw it with Fulton at the weekend, didn't we? Coming back off a loss, you know, sometimes on paper it looks like an easy fight and it turns out to be quite the opposite. But I think Munguia probably maybe a slow start, maybe a bit of confidence for sort of Eric in the first few rounds, but then I think he'll take control. And yeah, I would expect him to get a stoppage, probably mid to late rounds.
Yeah, so as Matt said a little bit earlier on, this card will be on Sky Sports in the early hours Saturday morning. So check it out if you are interested to see the Jaime Munguia comeback. But we will move on to Saturday night. It's destination Wembley Stadium. We've all loved watching the Riyadh season shows over the last 12 months. We finally get one of our own. And what a fantastic 6-5 cards that Turkey, Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn, etc. have put together for us. So to get us started, we have the only 10-rounder on the cards. This is Mark Chamberlain taking on Josh Padely. Mark Chamberlain, what a renaissance for him this year. He's gone from being sort of the king of the small hall circuits, always being on on Frank Warren's next gen cards that take place at York Hall in Telford, etc., to 2 stoppage victories in Saudi, and now getting this opportunity at Wembley. He's 16-0 now. He's proclaimed to be Uncle Turkey's favourite fighter. Whether you believe that or not, we'll leave to your discretion. What do we make of Mark Chamberlain? Obviously, his level of opponent hasn't been the highest we've seen in the last 2 fights, but he is on a momentum. He is on a roll, and he's obviously benefiting massively from the Saudi investment, isn't he?
Definitely. I mean, look, I think this is a real good story, isn't it? And there's got to be some truth in the fact that sort of Turkey's come across him, watched him in a fight, and just liked his style and got him on these cards. I guess there's got to be some substance to that somewhere. And he's certainly taken advantage of it. He's been out there, he's put in some good performances. Obviously, stopped going. Impressive in his last outing, and now this is another on paper step up in terms of the record of his opponent. But obviously, you'll also have one eye on what's down the line for him as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was going to be my next question, actually. So it's well rumored, if you're within boxing circles, that he's been lined up to face Denis Barancic for Barancic's WBO world title before the end of this year. Now, boxers will say all the time they're not focused on the future, they're focused on what's in front of them. But if you're having a world title carrot dangled around in front of you, surely it's hard to not get complacent and look ahead to what's in the future.
No, absolutely. I think we've seen it on so many occasions, haven't we, where boxers come out the week of a fight that's perhaps on paper a bit underwhelming, and they say, yeah, I'm absolutely not underestimating this opponent, I'm not looking to the future. Then what happens? They get beaten. Or putting a performance that's not at the level you'd expect. So he's got to be very careful to be 100% focused on Saturday night and not worry about what comes next.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to his opponent, Josh Padely. Padely is 14-0 with 4 KOs. But as he said himself at the Grand Arrivals yesterday, he's used to fighting, weighing in on the day and then fighting later that evening at the likes of Doncaster Leisure Centre, etc. So this is a massive step up for him. He's enjoying the journey. He said he's going to take everything in this week. He's going to take all the photos. He's going to engage with all the media because he doesn't know if he'll ever get this opportunity again. But I suppose he's not said it directly, but there is a danger he could become overwhelmed, isn't it? Wembley won't be full when they walk out. I reckon they'll be the first fight on the cards, with it being the only 10-rounder. But it's a big space, isn't it? It'll be very different to what he's used to. Is there a danger he could become overwhelmed, a bit like a rabbit in the headlights?
Absolutely. I think, anybody fighting that stadium, regardless of how many people are there at the time, it's going to be a new experience for a lot of people. So I think there is that danger. But I think also, he's got to look at this as an opportunity. He's the underdog. He's seen what Mark Chamberlain's achieved in the last year or so. He'll probably think, if I beat him, what does that do to my career? So yes, he'll be potentially overwhelmed. There'll be some nerves, but at the same time, what an absolute opportunity for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way I'd like to describe it, it's a bit like finding Willy Wonka's golden ticket, isn't it? If you get your chance to be on these shows, you've got to grab it with both hands. Even in defeat, if Padely puts up a good performance, there's no reason to say that Turkey isn't going to give him a call to be an opponent on another card in the future. So yeah, I do think it's a step too far for him. Look, we haven't seen Mark Chamberlain at the best level yet. And my one criticism would be, it's fantastic he's getting out on these cards, but the Mark Chamberlain fight now on all 3 cards this year has been the one. Not necessarily the Gavin Gwynn one, but definitely his performance on Fury Usyk was the one you went, okay, that's the most one-sided fight on the night. You know which way it's going to go. Barancic is being rumoured. Sam Noakes is being rumoured for the European title as well. Another fantastic prospect with Queensbury. It'd be nice to see it, once he comes through this one, a step up in level, especially if he's going to stay on these big cards.
Yeah, definitely. Sam Noakes is a great fight. If that can be made, if he gets a shot at world level, fair play to him. But I think you're right. If he jumps up to world level on the caliber of opponent he's fought so far, that's a big step up. And they need to start stepping up the quality of his opponents after this one, assuming he comes through it unscathed.
Absolutely. So just a quick prediction on this one, mate?
Yeah, I think Chamberlain gets the win. I think he probably gets the stoppage, mid to late rounds.
Yeah, I'm agree with a stoppage. I'm going slightly earlier. I do worry if Padely will become overwhelmed and think Chamberlain could get it done between rounds 3 and 6. But that should be the first fight of the night, which will kick off the card nicely for anyone that's getting into Wembley Stadium early. We'll move on to what I think will now be the next fight on the bill due to changes, and that is Josh Kelly and Ishmael Davis. Yep. Over 12 rounds. Before we get into anything else, big props to Ishmael Davis. 8 days notice and jumping in like any fighter would do, you have to say, on with this opportunity, but huge props. 8 days notice, training for a completely different fighter in a different weight division as well, not to forget, and he's taken this opportunity. So we'll give our props to Davis, definitely.
Yeah, look, 100%. I mean, he was one of many that were clamouring to get that spot over the weekend, and he's obviously come out on top. And I think the fact he was in training camp already will help him in that regard. I think, yeah, who wouldn't take this opportunity? But at the same time, you've got to admire him. He's going up against a caliber opponent he hasn't been in with before. He's risking putting his sort of record on the line with, no real preparation. So, yeah, absolute hats off to him.
Yeah, absolutely. So focusing on Pretty Boy Kelly first. He is 30 years old now. He's 15-1-1, as we know. The loss came against David Avanesian back in 2021 during the COVID times. It's his first outing of the year. Obviously, he had that fight in December, and I think he hoped to be active a bit more in the first part of this year. So another sort of stop-start 8 months for him. But my first question is, obviously, he said in interviews himself at the start of this week, he found out on Friday morning as he's heading in for his last technical session that Liam Smith's out the fight. He's saying all the right things. He's saying it hasn't affected me. It's not going to make a difference on fight night. But is there a danger that his level of performance could be slightly lower than it would have been against the former world champion?
Yeah, 100%. I think, he's done a whole training camp ready to face Liam Smith. And at the last minute, he's gone from somebody that's maybe not world level now, but certainly, Liam Smith has been at world level. He's been at the top level of his game for a long time against somebody who at the moment is moving up from British level and certainly has a bright future. So I think there's a very, very much a danger that he potentially underestimates him in the sense that, he thinks it'd be a walkover. But yeah, you're preparing for one thing and you're in there against a completely different opponent. It could be a bit underwhelming. And Josh has, on occasions, breezed through fights. And that's a bit of a criticism on him at times. He doesn't have that killer instinct. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out on Saturday night. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Josh has built himself back up nicely since he was dropped like a hot stone by Matchroom in the aftermath of the Avanesian loss. It's good to see him with Wasserman. The Sauerland brothers do still do real boxing. They're not just in the misfits world. They do still do professional fights, people. Let's remember that. And I would like to see him come through this fight and then make a push on to the world honours. That, look, there was the promise there of world honours when he turned over. He's 30 now. It's time to see him active and delivering. But moving on to Ishmael Davis, as we said, he was due to fight on the Casserole Pro Grey card. So he was in training camp. Sonny Edwards, his manager, said at the Grand Arrivals yesterday that he's actually loving life because he doesn't have to lose that extra little bit of weight that he normally has to get down to 154. So 160 suits him. And my question here is, they obviously have a common opponent in Troy Williamson. Both won via unanimous decisions. Could say similar kind of fights. One of Josh Kelly's career best performances. And Williamson, by his own admission, was done and dead at the weight by the time he took on Ishmael Davis last time out. And Davis did make that fight look rather comfortable. So can we make any comparisons from that performance between the two?
I think it's difficult because I think, Troy's the sort of fighter who wants to stand and trade, and Davis gave him that, and Davis came out on top. Kelly just danced around him for the whole fight and won it really convincingly. So I think, if Davis can close the gaps to Kelly and get in him and force, hurt him like Avanesian did, then that'll be when we see, what Josh has got and how he's recovered from that previous setback. But I don't think we can draw too many comparisons to how they performed against Troy Williamson.
No, I think my one worry for Josh in this fight is Ishmael Davis's style is very, very different to Liam Smith. Ishmael Davis is going to get on the inside. He's going to make it niggly. He's going to make it nasty, and he's going to look to drag it into a dogfight. If Josh doesn't have the minerals, so to speak, to deal with a dogfight, then I do worry what sort of outcome we may see in it. On paper, he's more experienced in terms of who he's been in with than Ishmael Davis. Davis is stepping in on short notice. Josh should get a victory. But if Ishmael's able to drag it into his style of fight and take Josh to a place that he doesn't enjoy going, there is a danger that Ishmael could come out with a massive shock here, isn't there?
Oh, 100%. I think that's what he needs to do. And, he probably needs to accept early on Josh will probably be quite elusive, but he needs to try and pin him. He needs to try to put something on him in sort of the first 3 or 4 rounds and then see how Josh reacts to that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to look at a blueprint for Davis, it's how Ray Robinson turned the fight around in MSG back in 2019. Josh cruised for 4 or 5 rounds, and then as soon as the fight got a bit niggly on the inside, he didn't like it. Lots of complaining to the ref, lots of complaining to Adam Booth. So it'll be interesting to see how much he's grown in the years between 2019 and now. But in terms of predicting this fight, for myself, I think we're going to see a spiteful and a bit frustrated Josh Kelly. He spent 10 weeks preparing for an ex-world champion, thought he'd get his flowers if he could beat, yes, Liam Smith tailing off in his career. But if you thought you'd get some flowers for a victory, and I think he'll make a statement. It may take him a few rounds to work out the puzzle, but a stoppage in the second half of the fight, I'm predicting for Josh Kelly in this one.
Yeah, I'm not sure he'll get the stoppage. I think it'll depend on Davis down the line and how he sort of copes with going those extra rounds. But I can see him getting a pretty wide unanimous victory.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will move on to what should have been one of 2 world title fights on this card. It still does have the lesser known IBO ranked world title on the line. Eubank Jr., we know it's your favourite belt, but it is one of the lesser world titles out there. It's Anthony Cacace against Josh Warrington at featherweight. Firstly, before we get into the fight, the fast of the IBF. So it came out to us on Monday that the IBF title wasn't going to be on the line. Firstly, let me say, Josh Warrington's recent record of 1-3-1 does not deserve a world title shot. I said that at the time the fight was made, and I completely understand the IBF's logic for doing it. However, there's no consistency from them. If they want to keep a fighter having a belt for 6 years because he makes them money, they do it. Anthony Cacace worked his whole career to win a world title, and what should be his first defense, he can't defend it. And if he loses this fight, the belt becomes vacant. He doesn't even stay champion. So, first of all, your makings on the IBF not having the belt up for this fight.
I agree with everything you just said there. I don't think it should be a title fight. I think, as usual, though, there seems to have been confusion surrounding it. You know, we had this with the fight, didn't we? Pataya across when he had to drop the belt in the end. And I think, you know, they're sticklers to their rules. You know, they've stripped Usyk or Usyk's relinquished, but it's effectively a stripping. They did the same with Fury way back when. So, yeah, I don't think that should be on the line. I don't think that Josh deserves just to jump into a title fight. But I see the frustration from Cacace's side that, you know, if he does lose, then effectively he's lost that belt for nothing, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, apparently the fighters knew about this at the start of August, and promises were made by both Turkey and the promoters that they'd find a way to get the belts on the line. Read into that what you would. Hasn't happened. Fine, absolutely. But it is, you know, Cacace, he's bringing 8,000 over from Belfast, Northern Ireland, and they haven't got a world title to celebrate. But as we look at Cacace, obviously a career best performance to drop and finish Joe Cordina in his last outing in May. It was his first knockout, though, since 2015, the first time he's had a stoppage in quite a long period of time. So has he rediscovered his power, or was that just his night, and anything he'd done that night was going to be good enough to win the world title, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to sit here, isn't it, and say, oh, Cordina had an off night. Yeah, you can argue he did, but Cacace took full advantage of it, and I thought he was really, really impressive in that fight. You know, he forced the pace from the early stages. He landed on Cordina. He dragged him into a fight, and, you know, he got the stoppage. So, yeah, his record would suggest that, you know, he's not somebody who knocks people out, but I think you've got to give him full props for what he did, whether that was a Cordina off night or not.
Yeah, you've got to believe his self-confidence is going to be at an all-time high. But the question for me, even if the world title was still on the line at this fight, is does that fire still burn? He openly admitted in the ring afterwards that he never believed he'd win an Irish title, let alone go on to be a world champion. So now he's achieved that. Does that fire still burn inside of him? On the flip side of that, Josh Warrington, his opponent, former two-time IBF world champion, lost the chance to become a third. As we said, his recent record of 1-3-1 with 2 KO losses in that. Obviously, the victory was against an aging Kiko Martinez to become a two-time world champion. What does Josh have left? I mean, you always believe he's going to have some dog, he's going to have some fire, and he was arguably beating Lee Wood before he was stopped in the 7th round last October. But does he have anything left to challenge Cacace? I mean, they're similar in age. Cacace is 35. I believe Warrington's 34. May have that the wrong way around. But retirement's surely the only option for Josh if he doesn't deliver what would be a shock on Saturday night for me.
Yeah, I think that retirement's absolutely the only option if he doesn't get the victory on Saturday night. I think you look at his last few fights, though. I mean, you know, the Lopez fight, he started slowly, then he really grew into it, and it was a really close fight in the end. Wood, he arguably dominated every round until the point he was knocked out. The Martinez fight is probably the one where he had the most trouble. Martinez, I think he broke his jaw, didn't he? And but obviously in the end, you know, it was just a firefight and he came out on top. So, you know, the fact that he's been inactive for a year now is what concerns me most. At his age, he needs to be fighting a little bit more regularly. So it'll be interesting to see what he's got left in the tank on Saturday night. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, for me, before I found out that the fighters had known about this for a month, I was worried what his motivation towards this fight would be now the IBF strap isn't on the line. So, but he's had 5 weeks to get his head around it. He's obviously been deep in training camp with his dad again. I think we're going to see a fired up Josh Warrington, but he can be fired up all he wants. But if his timing isn't what it was back 4 or 5 years ago, then I think he'll struggle with Cacace. But in terms of prediction, mate, I'll come to you first for this one.
Yeah, I think this one goes the distance, and I think Cacace edges a decision.
I'm in agreement with it going 12 rounds. On this show, I'm going to pick an upset of the weekend each weekend across the fights. And based on recent form, that would be this fight. I believe Josh Warrington just has one more big night left in him, and I think this will be the fight for him. It's going to be attritional. It's going to be tough. Probably points deductions, cuts all over the place, but I think Josh Warrington is going to dig deep and edge a decision victory to become the IBO featherweight champion of the world. We will move on to one of the most exciting prospects, certainly in the UK, but even in world boxing at this point, and that is Hamzah Sheeraz. He's taken on Tyler Denny, again over 12 rounds. This is for Denny's European title, but also the Commonwealth and WBC silver belts are on the line from Hamzah Sheeraz in this fight. Tyler Denny, man, what a renaissance. What can you say? He's gone from being another fighter that performs on the small hall circuit to taking a chance, really. He's brought in as a B-side fighter by Boxer. He wasn't there to beat the likes of Brad Pauls, etc. when he was brought in, but now he has a fantastic relationship. Lovely bit of management from Ben Shalom to get him a world title fight against a 44-year-old opponent who hadn't fought in 2 years. But look, you've got to take your opportunities when they come. His last victory against Felix Cash, career best performance from him. But I suppose my question here is, how long can the limited ability, so to speak, that Tyler Denny has, how long can this current wave ride him and keep him pushing on to performances that we believe are well above him?
I think Saturday night it'll be when he gets into it with an opponent that's just a step too far for him. But absolutely, full props to him for what he's achieved over the last couple of years. I mean, as you say, he came in that Brad Pauls fight, got the English title. He's kind of rolled on from there, and he's a crowd pleaser, isn't he? People like him. He seems like a nice guy. People want to back him. People come out for him, and again, whether you think Cash was in the right frame of mind to be in that fight, the inactivity he'd had of late, that's almost irrelevant. He took advantage of that, and he got the stoppage, and now he gets his opportunity. And what's he got to lose, really? No one expects him to do anything other than lose on Saturday night. He's done it before. He's upset the odds before, so it'd be really interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, you can't write off Tyler Denny with the momentum he's got in the moment that he's generated. He's a very, very live dog, and he is the European champion. Remember, this isn't Sheeraz's belt. He is coming into this as a challenger. Moving on to Hamzah Sheeraz, he's 20-0, 16 of those have been early nights for him, and he's coming off a career best performance and a massive statement against Ammo Williams on the 5 versus 5 cards. On paper, this looks like another step, just taking another notch on his march towards becoming a world champion. We know he's the WBC number one. We know their champion, Carlos Adames, is being lined up for him on the February Riyadh season card. Similar to my question with Mark Chamberlain, is there a danger here that Hamzah knows what the plan is? He's a Riyadh season ambassador, so he knows Turkey's going to look after him. Is there a danger he's already looking ahead to get into that world title fight next year, and that could lead to complacency on Saturday night?
Yeah, I mean, I think naturally people do look ahead, as we said previously, whether they say they are or not. The people are guilty of it. I do think Sheeraz is a pretty professional boxer, though. I think he will be fully focused on Saturday night, and I think he'll know the danger that Denny brings. He did get tested against Williams. He did take a shot, and he knows that Denny will be trying to do likewise in the early rounds. So I expect him to be fully focused on Saturday night and put a pretty professional job in. Yeah,
absolutely. I think one other variable for me, and I say this all the time, Hamzah Sheeraz is 6'3". He's an absolute man mountain to be making 160 pounds. I mean, let's not forget he had life or death with Bradley Skeet down at 154 as well. Controversial ending to that fight a couple of years ago. How much longer can he boil his frame down to 160? Fighters say all the time, even when they're comfortable at a weight, they leave a bit of themselves every time they're doing a weight cut. Is there a danger that this could be one fight too far for him, or do we reckon he's got a couple more in him to allow him to pick up a world title?
Yeah, I think, look, if he comes through Saturday night and there is a world title lined up for him next, then I think he makes it, he hangs around and has that fight. I don't think he then sits on that belt and defends it very often. I think he does then look to move up to super middleweight after that.
Yeah, I think he's sitting in a good place. He's highly ranked for the WBC. Canelo's going to be moving on soon, as we all know, and I'd put Hamzah Sheeraz right in there with that generation of 168s that's going to be fighting for the belts once they all sort of fragment in recent times, absolutely. So Sheeraz is playing, I think, a very clever game. Him and Frank Warren, they know exactly what they're doing, and if he can pick up a belt at 160, then he's probably likely to get one of the first shots at 168, regardless of whether people think he deserves it or not. So it's clever. He knows what he's doing, just hopefully he's not killing himself too much. In terms of a prediction for this fight, mate, for me, Sheeraz picks up another belt. He's got the Commonwealth, he's got the WBC silver, and this will be the European title, the lovely blue and gold belt. I think Denny will give him some questions early. I think it won't be a blowout. I don't believe it will be a blowout, but he'll outfight, he'll outmuscle Denny, he'll break him down. And I'm not sure if we'll see a knockout, but it wouldn't surprise me if Denny doesn't come out of his stall at somewhere in the middle of the fight. I think his corner may pull him out just to save him for another day. The pressure and volume of Hamzah Sheeraz, as we saw with Ammo Williams, it can overwhelm a fighter, and that's what I think is going to happen here.
Yeah. Yeah, look, I think Denny will thrive off the atmosphere. I think he will come out. I think he'll be all head up and he'll, the first few rounds, he'll really give it a go. And I think you're right. I think he will land something. But ultimately, I think he'll be broken down over the rounds. And yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if it stopped either by a knockout or, as you say, with his corner saving the day for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Another fantastic fight, and one that you want to make sure you're in your seats for, definitely, if you go into Wembley on Saturday. So we'll move on to what's become my fight of the night, bar the main event now. Liam Smith has fallen off for Josh Kelly. It is Joshua Buatsi and Willy Hutchinson. This is for the WBO interim world title at light heavyweight. In essence, it's if the WBO decides to strip the winner of their unification fight next month, they'll be upgraded to an email world champion. We've seen it happen before. It wouldn't at all surprise me if it happens again. In terms of this fight, Buatsi is 18-0. It's his second outing of the year. His third outing with Boxer, I believe, since the bizarre, if I'm being honest, move from Matchroom. That still not sure if it's worked out for him. Look, Buatsi as well, he's a 2016 Olympian, so we're 8 years removed from that Olympics Games. This is only his 19th career fight. I'm a big JB fan. I love his skills. I love what he does in the ring. But when are we going to see him make that jump to world level? Arguably, you could say he's doing it in this fight because of the belt attached to it. But this is really where he has to prove that he's a world champion in waiting, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I think Buatsi over the last sort of 12 months, if we believe what the rumours were, there was a world title fight on the line for him that, by all accounts, he decided not to take. Whether that's true or not. Obviously, then there was all the Anthony Yarde speculation. So that was a big fight, a huge domestic fight. And, both of them are arguably at world level. And now he's in with Willy Hutchinson. So he has to stay motivated, but he has to deliver something. He has to put in a performance that everybody sits up and thinks, yeah, that's a real Joshua Buatsi there. He can concentrate for the full fight or as long as the fight goes. And he can show people that he can mix it at world level if that opportunity comes.
Yeah, absolutely. We know Buatsi's moniker, JB, just business. We've seen him this week. He's got the long hair and the beard. After the weigh-in on Friday, that will all go. He likes a clean look, doesn't he, in the ring? And hopefully that's going to bring a polished performance. He's been in with a higher caliber of opponent, both amateur and professional, than Willy Hutchinson. So it's the night to show it. Wembley Stadium, 96,000 people. I'd imagine this is going to be the co-main event. Go out there and make a statement. But moving on to Willy Hutchinson, he's 18-1. He's another Queensbury fighter coming off an impressive career best performance on the 5 versus 5 cards against Craig Richards. Strange performance from Richards that night. It's one of the few times I've seen a Shane McGuigan fighter not have a plan B or not be able to adapt to a plan B, so to speak, in a fight. But if we're honest, the level Willy Hutchinson's been in with is nowhere near the level of Buatsi, and perhaps his skill set will reflect that as well.
Yeah, look, I think Willy Hutchinson surprised everybody when he beat Craig Richards so easily. As I say, I think the 5v5, if you're going to pick one that was going to be a matchroom win, it was that one. And it completely didn't turn out that way. And you're quite right, there was no plan B. But was that just that they underestimated Willy Hutchinson? They thought that they believed the hype and thought that we're just going to get the job done. So again, he's got nothing to lose really here. He's coming into this fight, 6 months ago, he would never have dreamed he would have this opportunity. He's going to get under Buatsi's skin. He's already done that. And if he can do that and it can cause Buatsi to be something maybe less focused or too angry that he tries to fight a different type of fight, then Hutchinson's got a chance. I guess, he'll just be happy to have this opportunity.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, if you're going to run your mouth, you're going to get opportunities like this handed to you, and you now got 96K at Wembley. I do think, though, it's a step too far for him. He can come again. He's only 25, so there's definitely an opportunity for him to come again, but I think this is an opportunity to see for him. And in terms of how I think this fight will go, Willy's mouth is cashing checks that I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with on the night, and Buatsi's going to look to put some manners on him. He believes he's a world champion in waiting. This is your opportunity to show it, get that interim world title, sees what happens. I think it could be a beatdown, it could be a spiteful Joshua Buatsi, and I expect to see our first stoppage victory for Buatsi since 2021. Second half of the fight, he may say he's going to do it early, but Hutchinson will be live in there definitely for 4 or 5 rounds until he started being broken down. How about yourself, Matt?
Yeah, I hope that's how it plays out. I want to see Joshua Buatsi show that side to him. I don't want him to get well on top on the cards at 7, 8 rounds and then just sort of disappear for the rest of the fight like he can do, and that'll turn the audience off as well. And I think, go out there, get at him, be spiteful, get the victory, get the stoppage.
No, absolutely. Look, we're all Joshua Buatsi fans. We want to see him fulfill the potential that he undoubtedly has. So hopefully Saturday night is the biggest step yet in his career towards doing that. But we've covered 5 fights so far. That's the undercard done. I believe I described this main event getting a bit overexcited as a daddy of a fight in my preview for this show this week. So let's stick with that. It's the daddy of the fight. It's Daniel Dubois, Anthony Joshua for the IBF World Heavyweight Championship of the World. Firstly, regardless of the belt being on the line, which I don't think this fight needs, this is a fantastic fight, a fantastic heavyweight fight, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Let's not just think that Joshua's going to steamroll through this. This is a really good world level fight between two good British fighters. One that's, been there, done it, got the history. Another that's got every chance of, yes, you say he's paper champion, but, he's got the belt and he deserves to have it. He's had the opportunities. He's been in there with some good fighters. He's really improved of late. And I think, this has got potential to be a really, really good main event.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let's talk about Dubois. Record of 21-2, 20 KOs. So the only person that's gone the distance with him was Bryant Jennings, right back at the start of his career. He's coming off the back, though, 2 career best performances against Jarrell Big Baby Miller, whether we think he should be fighting or not, and Filip Hrgovic in June this year. He was the interim IBF champion. He's now full champion, whatever. That's by Dubai in this fight. But how much do we need to give credit to the move to Don Charles and Tom Farrell? I believe I've got his co-trainer right there. The improvement in Dubois is marked. The self-confidence is through the roof. Even in the Usyk fight, which was the first fight of that relationship, there seems to be such a difference in Daniel Dubois that we didn't even see with McGuigan.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit shocked when he left McGuigan. But yeah, you can't deny that move worked out for him. I think they've rebuilt him. There was obviously there's been questions over him in the ring and his heart. I mean, I don't buy into the Joyce fight. I think if you've got an eye injury of that severity, look, you don't want to be taking too much more punishment on it. The Usyk one's a different conversation, but I think, he's definitely shown character. He had some rocky moments at the start of that Miller fight, came through it, got the victory. And again, last time Hrgovic started well, but, he broke him down and he forced him to be stopped because of the cuts. So, I think he's in a very good place right now, and I'm sure he's full of self-confidence going into this one.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I was similar to you, Matt. When I heard he'd left Shane McGuigan and it was to do with sort of family tensions, so him and Caroline not wanting to be in the same gym anymore, and whether it was Daniel who made the decision that he was going to step away from the gym or whether Shane said that he'd rather focus on Caroline, that's by the by. The move to Don Charles has perhaps been the best thing to happen to his career. He was competitive in the Usyk fight until he wasn't, if that makes sense. He had that moment in the 5th round. Was it a low blow? Was it a body shot? We'd be here for the rest of the day if we got into that conversation. So we'll leave it at that. But if this fight was 2 years ago, it's an Anthony Joshua steamroll job. AJ gets him out of there inside 2 rounds, realistically, and that's an opinion everyone shares. But this is a very competitive fight for as long as it's going to last. If we move on to AJ, we all know his record. He's 28-3. He's a former 2-time unified heavyweight champion. He's held all the belts apart from that beautiful green and gold belt. He's on a 4-fight winning streak since the back-to-back defeats to Usyk. 3 stoppages. The Ben Davidson link up, similar to Dubois moving to Don Charles, for me, that's the best thing that could happen to his career. I would go on record as saying this is the most spiteful and venom-filled AJ we've seen at any point in his career. I'm also counting when he was coming up and he was KOing Journeyman in 1 punches. I believe this is the best version in terms of his spite we've seen in his career. He's punching through the targets. He's got a smile on his face and he seems to be enjoying his boxing. That manufactured AJ that had become, I think, is starting to fade away again, and we're getting someone having the love of boxing back. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think Ben Davidson's a really good choice of trainer. And I think, I don't think people underestimate Ben Davison because we know what he's done in his career and the fighters that he's led to titles, and obviously what he did with Fury in terms of bringing him back. And I think it's that side of it. It's that psychological side of it. He doesn't need to teach AJ anything from a boxing standpoint, but he's just freed his mind and he's got him confident again. And he's got him throwing his shots, which he wasn't doing in the immediate aftermath in the Franklin fight and to some extent in the Hellenius fight, in the Wallen fight and the Ngannou fight. He's absolutely done that. He's full of confidence and he's backing his ability again.
Absolutely. I mean, no one's calling Ben Davidson boxer-sized Ben anymore like they were when he first started working with Tyson Fury. He's come a long way. And for me, that's one of the hottest gyms in the country right now. Further down in Essex, not too far down the road from myself. Obviously, you have to caveat AJ's 4 victories by saying that's against a certain standard of opponent. Yeah. And okay, now everyone's saying, he was an MMA fighter when he fought Francis Ngannou. Ngannou gave Fury fits, whether that was Fury barely trains, whether it was Ngannou just can fight. And maybe there's rumours of us seeing him back in boxing, which is a conversation for another time. But what is AJ's motivation at this point? money surely can't be a motivation anymore. We've seen he's got the Under Armour, Lucozade, Beats. He's got all these brands that pay him lots and lots of money. Is he driven by legacy? Is he driven by the fact that there still hasn't been a British holder of the 4 belts? Obviously, Fury can do that in December. Is it the belts? Is it legacy? How much longer do you think we're going to see Joshua for?
I think he'll want to get his hands on those belts, and if depending on what happens, if he wins on Saturday night, depending on what happens on in December, he'll want the winner of that fight. I'm sure he still wants the Fury fight. I'm sure he'd still love to sell it out at Wembley. If Fury loses to Usyk, there's a question and a conversation for another day. Does Fury then walk away? But he'll want a trilogy. He'll want revenge over Usyk, but ultimately he wants those belts and he wants the legacy that comes with having those belts.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing for me, I believe Usyk win, lose or draw walks away after the second fight. I think he wants to base himself back in Ukraine, doing what he can to help his people, obviously with the atrocities still raging in that country. Fury, if he wins, I think we'll see him fight on. If he loses, I think he's gone. I don't think his ego will allow him to fight on if he is to lose to the middleweight rabbit, as he was referring to Usyk before the first fight. But moving it back to Joshua, I think it's belts that motivate him now and give him back to the people. Boxing has given him so much from when he turned over as an amateur, winning the Olympic gold, to everything he's done as a pro. And I still think we're going to see him for another 4 or 5 years. I don't think he's going to go on like Klitschko to the point where he's may tarnish that legacy by losing fights against the next crop coming through. But I think he'll give it another 4 or 5 years before we see him ride off into the sunset. And hey, with the investment from Saudi, it could be a fantastic 4 or 5 years, couldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's been very active of late, hasn't he? Certainly last year, he obviously fought a lot and he needed that at that point in time. But you're right, if he can get a big fight, if he can get the belts, if he can achieve that, then maybe he does fight, once or twice a year on a big card. As long as there's people coming up now, isn't there, that he'll probably fancy testing himself against. Yeah. As long as they're around, likes of a Toma, for example, if he gets to a certain level, Joshua might just think, that's an interesting fight for me. So yeah, definitely, I could see that.
Absolutely. So we move on to our final prediction for this huge main event. I'll start with yourself, Matt. How do you see this one going?
I think the cage opening. I think both men trying to sort of get behind the jab and get a bit of dominance. I think Dubois will test AJ's chin, and it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to that, because that hasn't really happened of late. But ultimately, I think AJ gets a stoppage. I think this goes, 7, 8, 9 rounds, and he ultimately stops Daniel Dubois.
For me, this is a 6-round shootout, 6-round firefight. I think Dubois is going to test AJ. I even think he may drop AJ in the opening couple of rounds, but ultimately the experience of being at a higher level, which Anthony Joshua has been at, will show and come through. And I think we'll get Dubois out of there in the 5th round. But it's going to be an absolutely fantastic fight whilst it lasts, and one I'm very excited for. So there we go. That is closing the book on this weekend. Thank you very much, Matt, for your predictions. Hope everyone's enjoyed the show. Before we go, just share with everyone your X handle so they can drop you a follow if they're not already. Yeah, absolutely. It's at T, the letter T, Counterpunch, all one word. Lovely. So if you're not following Matt already, make sure you give him a follow. From myself, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone for interacting and viewing the show last week. My debut show went far better than I think I was anticipating, and hopefully it's the start of things to come. So yeah, if you've enjoyed the show, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you at the same time next week. Thank you very much.